Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. This is episode 36. 36 chambers, Wu-Tang. This episode, we talk about some heavier issues around the dating world, the dating sphere, if you will. My guest, Sheena Sharma, she's a dating coach for millennials. She does a lot of work with men. And in the media lately, Professor Scott Galloway, an NYU professor, made a statement on a show that if you took 50 men and 50 women on a dating app, that 46 of the women would show all of their attention to just 4 of the men. Do you believe that? Do you think that's accurate? Are men in a dating crisis? We're going to jump into it with Sheena. She knows her stuff amazingly, and we're going to explore that. We also talk about sex robots. We talk about Harry Styles. We get into all of the controversy with Adam Levine. We talk about Leonardo DiCaprio. And there's a ton of other amazing, valuable, incredible things in this episode. And I think that it's time that we just jump right to the conversation. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Sheena Sharma.
This week's conversation.
Sheena Sharma, welcome to Sex Party. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dustin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm really kind of excited about talking to you today. I think, all the interviews are fun, but there's like a lot of stuff I haven't talked about yet on the show, and I think that it's just going to be fun to dive in with you. That being said, for the people in the audience who don't know who you are, could you talk a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a dating coach for single millennials based in Austin, Texas. I have worked with men and women for nearly 4 years now. And in the past 2 years, I've narrowed down my focus to just men. And it's been a total pleasure of mine to serve in this area.
Okay. Very interesting right off the rip right there, right? So when you say you narrowed your focus from women and men primarily down to men, why? And could you talk about a little bit what the logic was there? Because I think that's really the part of it that is interesting to me.
For sure. It is interesting. It's fascinating. So basically, I saw this sort of need within the market, right? So as a coach, we talk about sort of market needs, and you tend to go wherever the market takes you, right? Where the demand is. And so I have been working with women, but, typically in our culture and in our society and Western culture in general, there's really not much emphasis on men in particular to dive into their mental health. Men are conditioned to grow up sort of strong, and I put strong in quotations, but to appear strong at the very least. And that entails not necessarily doing the work, doing a lot of the inner work that a lot of the women out there are doing. And so because of that, I started to get just sort of an influx of messages from men saying, hey, I need help. I am showing up in my dating life with low self-esteem. I'm showing up not feeling confident in myself. I just don't feel good generally about who I am. And because of that, I just can't seem to score women. I just can't seem to show up as my best self with women.
Okay. And you just felt really compelled to sort of fill that void then?
Yeah, absolutely. I really wanted to help men kind of step into their power. Because we are living in a time where gender roles are shifting. A lot of things are shifting. And that being said, men still have a lot of agency, and I want them to be able to take control of that and understand the power that they do have, especially when it comes to their dating life. So that being said, I am a woman, and I understand women. I understand what women want, what they desire from men. And so I've seen some radical change in a lot of the men that I've worked with.
Yeah, I bet. I'm totally gonna crack into that with you because I think this conversation is so much bigger about men and women, like in the dating field. I think the dating scene, right, is like kind of dicey, and so many questions for you just from what you said just now. Um, so if you're noticing as a woman that there's like this discrepancy, like dudes are not showing up, right? And then you're like, oh, well, I could help them. And so you sort of angle your business, your talents to try to fix that, to try to fill that void. Like I said, what what did you notice right away? Was there something where it was like, oh, this is not what I thought. This is fucked up. This is like scary, difficult. Like, was there something right away where you felt like, oh, wow, I don't know how I didn't anticipate that? Or,
Mm, yeah, I guess there definitely was a bit of a shock. There was a bit of a shock, even as a coach, to hear how much men were struggling because, I'm a single woman, or I'm sorry, I'm a straight woman, not a single woman. I'm a straight woman. And I have a lot of straight single female friends. And so, in these discussions that I sit on with them and I hear them sort of talk about stuff, there's a lot of man bashing, right? There's a lot of like straight man bashing and saying things like, men suck, men don't understand me, men, they can't give me what I want, or they're not able to show up and provide, or, come into that role of strength and protection. So there's a lot of man bashing, and a lot of women think that, and even I thought for a while that men were intentionally doing this, like that they were intentionally showing up in such a way to hurt women, when the reality is it's not that at all. Like a lot of it is just subconscious. A lot of it is because of the way that they were raised. And in reality, a lot of these men are simply putting on a facade when deep down they just feel like absolute crap about themselves. So the extent to which men are struggling, the extent to which men are experiencing, straight single men are experiencing anxiety and depression, is continues to be, was and continues to be quite alarming to me.
yeah, again, this topic is like much bigger. So if someone's like tuning into this episode, I think that the conversation we're having and going to have is just a much larger, scarier conversation. And I think it's great. I think it's time to have that conversation because, even lately, and I don't know, I was going to wait till the back half of the interview, but we were already like kind of like rubbing up against it. Professor Scott Galloway was on a show, I think Bill Maher or something recently. He said a lot of big things about how online dating has sort of ruined everyone, but especially men. I think one of the quotes I took, he said, if there are 50 men and 50 women on a dating app, 46 of the women will give their attention entirely to just 4 men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what? And then those 46 men become psychos essentially. Like, I'm being a dick about it, but
Yeah.
they become depressed and upset and they do crazy, violent, stupid things because they can't get affection or hook up. And so I'm wondering if you agree with that, what your thoughts are on that. And then we'll jump from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought this interview up because I've been seeing. I have a like big singles group on Facebook that I run. It's like thousands of people, and one of the men in there recently posted this video, and it got like so much just conversation. People were so fascinated by this. So I absolutely agree with this. The idea that there's a small subset of men, of straight single men, who get most of the attention from straight single women is 100% true. Some circles, and I am one of those people, will say it's like the top 5 to 10% of men, right? So especially on dating apps, because dating apps are so aesthetic based, right? We're basically only judging someone based on their looks, based on how they show up in their profile picture. Women only tend to swipe right on the really, really handsome ones. It doesn't really matter, anything else that they bring to the table, it's really unfortunate, but it's just not as important. And so if you're super handsome and if you're super tall as well, then you're going to do really, really well in the dating apps. But of course, that's such a small percentage of the entire male population. And it's really unfortunate for men, because if you were to look at that statistic in real life, the same applies, of course, but on dating apps, you're judged way more harshly. And so a guy, for example, who's 5'6" or 5'7" is just not going to get probably even half as many matches as a guy who's 6'2" and, has a beard and like beautiful brown eyes and beautiful brown hair. Women love beards.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is really, it is a huge fucking mess. Let's just be real. Like online dating, I think is, just insane. And I think when it started, Tinder and Bumble, you could go on there and just like, you could truly like, hook up with somebody, hook up with multiple people. You could have a date, you could whatever. And now it's so, I'm trying to think of a good term, right? But it's so, almost like it feels like really sterile or something, where it's like, people are not connecting as much. And it is like a thing where, I mean, obviously like women are always going to have more options than men. It's just that's just the way that's the way of the world. Right. And good for them. I think it's great, but on a dating app, it is so apparent, when things are just not like work, and people will tell you, oh, you need to do this. And I'm sure you have a ton of tips, and I'm going to ask you for them, right? For guys. And I mean, for women too, like in their profiles, how they can get attention better, whatever. I watched some of your reels. Okay. And I love them. I think what you're doing is really great. But to jump back to the online dating thing and what this professor said. So like, what do we do? What are the steps to sort of, I don't want to say fix that, but make that better maybe? Or like, is there another way?
For sure. Yeah. I'm really glad you asked that, because this is a great question. And the answer is that there's not just one right answer. The answer is that men and women need to come together to help each other on this. So for example, a lot of the stuff that I say to women, I still work with women, by the way, just not as much as I do with men. But a lot of the things I say to women are, ladies, like, ground yourselves. Let's like take a step back and take a deep breath. If you're primarily only swiping on men who are 6'3" and really handsome, are you going to be his target market? Are you like the top 5% of beautiful women, right? So why, if it's no, why are you judging this man so harshly, right? Like, it can't be that every single woman on the spectrum of, 0 is ugly to 10 is beautiful subjectively, all are going for the same type of guy, because it's just not realistic. So women, the first thing is women have to ground themselves. They have to be a little more realistic. And women grow up, of course, watching Disney movies and thinking that there's some sort of Prince Charming out there and that we're all entitled. We all have this like huge sense of entitlement when it comes to having the man that we desire. So that's the first thing I say to women is like, frankly, get your head out of your ass and stop judging men so harshly. That's the first thing. The second thing, which is probably a great segue into kind of the work that I do with men, the second thing is the work that does lie on the men. Here's the thing. Most men are actually not totally hopeless. They're not totally unattractive. What I see so much is that they don't know how to style themselves. They don't know the best haircut for their face shape. They don't even know what their style is because they're not clear on who they are and how they want to show up in the world. And a great example, I love using him as an example, is Harry Styles. Harry Styles, yes, he's a celebrity. Yes, he's British, but he's not 6'3". He's like 5'8", 5'9". But that guy knocks it out of the park with style. And because he's so confident with his style, which is just an expression of his personality, he's so charming and he could get any woman that he wants. So those are the two big pieces of advice that I give to women and men respectively.
Yeah, I mean, it's Harry Styles, right? The guy can rock a fucking dress the same way he can rock a suit, but it's confidence. You're right. You're totally right. Yeah, the confidence is the only thing that you can wear that trumps everything else. You know, like, so that's an amazing point. So I'm gonna jump back real quick because you told the women like get their head out of their ass, right? And so from where I'm at, I feel like these dudes need to get their head out of their ass too, because everybody, all the men go for the same. It's like happening on the same, and the people in the middle just never meet. You know, like all the women go for the hot dudes, all the dudes go for the hot chicks, and then those people are in the middle. Like, I fucking suck. Maybe I should, eat a whole cake and fucking smoke cigarettes or whatever they're doing, right? And that's, I think the middle piece to me is the most fascinating, because those people in the middle could like get together and fuck and like hang out and have a good time, go to a nice Italian restaurant, whatever, right? But like, no, they're not getting together. Where's the app for like the middle? Should we start an app? Like, should we just like call it middle ground or something? Like, meet me in the middle? Like, what are we doing?
That's so funny. That's kind of like I feel like that's a low key insult. Like it's like a backhanded compliment type thing, right? Where it's like, that's the fun.
Maybe, yeah.
It's like no one wants to fall in the middle. That's the problem though with our society today, is no one wants to be in the middle. No one wants to be average. And, but
Sure.
It's an issue. You're right. It is an issue because the same thing is happening to women, where I'll give you an example, actually. It's the Instagram effect, where I spend a lot of time on Instagram because I own my own business, and I spend a lot of time creating content, but I also look at a lot of other people's content. And something that I see so much in the women on Instagram is like, everyone's starting to look the same. You're just seeing all these women with like the bubble butts, really thick brows and lip fillers. And it's gotten me so much to the point of where I'm seriously deciding if I want lip fillers or not. And my boyfriend's like, don't get lip fillers. Like, you're beautiful the way you are. But I look in the mirror and I'm like, Sheena, you could be way prettier. Like, just get those lip fillers. Deep down, I really don't want to get the lip fillers. But this Instagram effect, it just makes me feel so shitty about myself, seeing all these women. And the thing is, there's no originality in that anymore. Everyone's starting to look the same. And what fun is that, right? We're all unique looking. We should all be different looking from one another.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, this is something else, and I'm just going to say it too, but in my own way, that same professor, Scott Galloway, said about online dating. He said social media is bad for everyone. I'm going to go on record on my show with you, and say Instagram, social media is fucking poison. It just poisons your mind and makes you feel like no matter how, it's like the fucking mirror at H&M or something. It's like, this like wacko reality check, but it's in your phone and it's happening nonstop. And so not only you get to see everybody else's perfect little mirrors, and it's like, it just, I don't think us as humans, we're intended to be these little batteries that power these huge companies. And it's all like, basically we're giving our emotion to this machine, and then they're running ads on it. And it's the whole thing, I think, is terrible. But what you said is huge, right? You don't want to get the fucking lip filters, but yet your mind is telling you that maybe you should. Can you say more about that, please? Because I think that's really important.
I love that you're diving into like so much that I think should be talked about more. Yeah, it's I really feel like I've been nearly brainwashed to see that just bigger, fuller lips equals, beautiful woman. It equals like model-esque looks. And I'm not even single, but even if I were, I would still be thinking like, okay, this is what I need to look like if I want to score a man. It's all these women that I'm seeing, and it's all the other women that I know who are also seeing this face and this sort of look, that they feel the men are going for, that this look is highly desirable to men. And so what it's doing, really the effect of that and what's happening in the dating world, is that these women are seeing this, and then in turn, their confidence is lowering. And then when their confidence is lowering, they're not able to show up as their best selves in their dating lives. But even more, this really fascinating thing happens. In the dating world, I always say, we only judge others as harshly as we judge ourselves. We only judge others as harshly as we judge ourselves. So these women that have thin lips and want lip fillers, like the girls with big lips, feel like shit about themselves. So what are they doing? They're hopping on the dating apps and they're only swiping right on the really handsome men because they're judging those men as harshly as they judge themselves. So that's the reality of it. And people don't realize how much their time scrolling on Instagram is actually indirectly affecting the type of man or woman that they ultimately are swiping left or right on. And it's a shame because a lot of people get missed over. A lot of them get missed, and it's just a bunch of missed connections, people that never meet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I meant. Like, it was sort of a backhanded compliment, but I do mean that. I do think that we are ignoring the middle. We are ignoring, and it doesn't mean that anyone's less attractive. It just means that these ideas that everybody wants you to fall into or be the 6'3" dude or whatever, it's sort of a fake, sort of a fallacy, and it's like, great, that's amazing. Everybody wants to be Harry Styles. Everybody wants to be Kim Kardashian. But the reality is that we're not. We're ourselves. And somewhere along the line with Bumble, with Tinder, with Instagram, it is telling us every single day, don't be yourself. Be this other thing. And here's the fucking ad so you can buy all the things you need to be this other thing. And again, we are ignoring the middle. I think we could have a great party in the middle. I think everybody that would show up would be like, wow, this is so easy, but they are keeping us apart, I think. And I'm starting to sound a little tinfoily, whatever, but fuck it. It's my show. I just think that people don't, that's not good for business for people to get together. You want the single people to break up and need a new partner and buy new lip gloss and, all the fucking things. Yeah. So here we are, we have this big problem. So I ask you again, right? What do we do with the middle? How do we bring those people together? How do we all get together and be more realistic? Because you did say it's not about all of the hater shit. It's about men and women getting together. And I think you're so right. And that's so powerful. So how do we do that?
Yeah. Especially for those people in the middle, and this is what I love about coaching, is it's about increasing their confidence so much so that they start to show up in a different way in their lives. So in other words, they are taking actions, they're taking steps that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise take, like some of the stuff I tell my men to do, which is when you go to the coffee shop in the morning and you see a woman that you think is cute or you like her outfit or whatever, and you feel like you want to talk to her, that you have the confidence, that you've instilled the confidence in yourself to go up to this woman and actually start a conversation. And it's on men and women to do this, because if we don't start doing this now, it's only going to get worse. It's 2022. By 2040, people are going to have sex robots. Sex robots are already a thing. But this podcast is called Sex Party. So people are going to be having sex parties with their sex robots. And so that's something that I love to encourage people with. It's like, yes, use the dating apps. They can be a great plan B to your dating life. Use them as a supplement, but do not use them as a replacement for in real life interaction. Because when you do that, you're greatly hindering your social skills and you're turning yourself into a robot.
Yeah, I mean, a lot there. Love the sex robot thing. I actually, I'm going to be diving more into that coming up in a future episode. But I think it's fascinating because, there are sex toys for men that are more widely acceptable. There's all sorts of amazing shit for women that's, becoming more mainstream. Fucking thank God, right? Mm-hmm. And we are going to have, hot robots, hopefully, that everybody can have sex with and party with and all the things. But none of that is a substitute for intimacy, right? And you probably deal with this all the time, every day. And so I think you're right that those things can be for sex or to experiment and feel pleasure and fuck the robot all day long, right? But like when you need that human connection and you're denying yourself in the coffee shop, like you said, that it does truly lead, and I can say this as like a human man, right? That isolation can get nasty quick if you're like ignoring talking to people, making connections, and that's like a really dangerous place.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's a slippery slope. That's the thing. It's like, I like to call social skills as a use it or lose it skill. Growing up when I used to study foreign languages in college and university, my professors would say the same thing about languages. So using social skills, it's like learning a foreign language. If you do not use it, you will lose it. You will straight up lose the ability to communicate with people in real life, right? So the longer you go without talking to someone at the coffee shop, the harder it's only going to get, and the worse your anxiety and depression and desire to close yourself off is going to get. It's like that saying, like, the hardest things in life often reap the greatest rewards, right? I know it sounds like a stupid cliche, but it's true. The quality of the types of connections you can make in real life with strangers is many times greater than the quality of connections you're going to find on the dating apps. And that's just the reality of it.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you're here. This is great. This is really great. Because I think you're saying a lot of things that some people are afraid to say. And that's why I wanted you on the show, because I just knew from your content, from what you were doing, that it would be a conversation like this that is deeper and has rough edges and shit, because we're all about that. So with that being said, and thank you for that amazing answer. So they're in the coffee shop. They see this waitress or woman every Tuesday, and they just can't. How do they actually go through with it? And if it doesn't work out, how do you advise them to feel about that? Like that's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I love that you have that follow-up question, because that's half the battle, if not more. I always tell my male clients, my guys, use the 5-second rule. So the 5-second rule is this: if you see a woman that you're interested in, bonus points if you've seen her more than once at the coffee shop. If she's your barista or you've seen her repeatedly, that's just extra incentive for you to go talk to her, right? You may have even built up a more shallow connection already. So use the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule says this: within 5 seconds of meeting her eyeline or seeing her, whether you've said hi to her or not, you go up to her and you start a conversation. If you do not do it within the 5 seconds of feeling the initial impulse of, oh, that girl's attractive, or I want to go talk to her, you're going to talk yourself out of talking to her. As humans, it is natural for us to get anxious and nervous in these situations. And when we do that, we start to create conversations and stories in our heads that are absolutely not true, that are going to keep us from actually taking that action. Like, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve her, she's too good for me, etc. Right? So use the 5-second rule. If you don't, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And that 5-second rule impulse, it's going to come with repeated action and with confidence, right? Whatever that it looks like for you. Maybe it's standing in the mirror and saying some self-affirmations every morning. I do that. I know it sounds cheesy, but it really helps me. Or this is huge for women, putting something on, wearing something that just makes you feel like hot shit, just makes you feel like a total badass. Now the rejection part, right? The rejection part, I love that you brought that up, because it is inevitable. You're going to get no's. Like that's just human nature. But the great thing about rejection is the more that you get rejected, the easier it gets. And that's why I always tell men, just start. It doesn't matter if you feel ready. It doesn't matter if you still want to lose 5 pounds. It doesn't matter. Just start. Because the more you approach women and the more you get rejected, the more likely it is that you're also going to get a yes. You're going to get 9 no's before you get 1 yes. It's just like applying for a job, right? So take the rejection with a grain of salt and then keep going.
Yeah, I love that. And you nailed it like so hard. So thank you for that, because there is that thing. If you don't jump when you're the most fucking terrified, you never will. I had a situation recently in my personal life where I was like, okay, let's stop before we go into this situation. And I was like, I'm like, we know what happens if you stop. And I just walked right in, because you have to do that. And it's not something that ever, I mean, it does get easier, but that baseline fear is always there. And, for me personally, I kind of like get off on it. I love having that little like adrenaline rush and being scared of something and fucking doing it anyway. But I'm wondering, okay, so if that's the ticket, right? Go, go, go. If you're scared, you're in the right place, swing, do your thing, right? The rejection piece is different, because people take that really personal. Oh, I was rejected. And like you and I both know, like, who gives a shit, right? Like, whatever, like get rejected 100 times. And I'm in a place in my life where I can do that. And I'm sure like you seem like a confident person, and you know the game and how it works and human behavior. And I'm sure you feel like that too, but a lot of people don't. And I think the fear part, I think, is easier to conquer than the rejection part. So if you could just add a little bit more, like maybe advice, right, on how to take rejection, how not to process it as I suck, and more like,
Yeah, that's good. Here's the thing about being rejected, right? If the stakes are higher, it's always going to feel worse, And I like to use the metaphor of jobs because it's just true. So let's say you're applying for your dream job, and then you're applying for sort of like a backup job that like you're not as crazy about, but you're doing it just in case the dream job falls through. Getting rejected by the dream job is going to hurt way worse, right, than getting rejected by the backup job. So take that metaphor or analogy and now apply it to dating. Do you have to start cold approaching women by going up to the hottest girl in the room or the most confident girl in the room? Abso-fucking-lutely not. And you shouldn't, especially if you are working on your confidence and practicing how to handle rejection well. Start small. Start lower stakes. Start with just a stranger, and it doesn't even have to be a woman. That's the beautiful part. Start with just a dude. Start with a dude and strike up a conversation with him. Then from there, you can take baby steps towards maybe eventually the first or second or third hottest woman in the room.
Yeah, no, start small, guys. Love it, right? I'm going to give some bad advice, and you can totally like push me back and be like, why are you telling them that? Don't do that. But like, I don't know, this is my personality, and sometimes you got to let the devil out. And so this is my advice. If there is the hottest woman in the room, bar, restaurant, dinner party, whatever, and you want to get her attention, you want to approach her, you want to get her number, you want to hook up with her, you want to date her, this is what I would do. I would approach her like you're going to ask her for her number and whatever, and she's going to be like, oh God, another one of these clowns, right? And then you just tell her that you think her friend is really hot, and that can she hook you up with her friend? I guarantee you by the end of the night, you're going to have attention from girl number one. So that is my total bad advice. The disclaimer, like if you try it, you're on your own time, whatever. I'm not available for any conversations, but whatever. So I figured I'd give bad advice and see what you do with that.
I love that. You're cracking me up. Yes. I feel like that's like total dude advice. I feel like I've like seen that type of advice before from men on Instagram.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's truth to it. There's a reason that advice is circulating out there. And it's that realistically speaking, many times hot women who are considered to be very attractive are on this sort of pedestal, and they put themselves there, but they're also, of course, put there by other men. And so if you go up to her and don't treat her as if she's the hottest woman in the room, just treat her like she's literally anybody else. Just watch how she responds to you. She will be surprised and it'll irk her enough to actually want to get to know you more. It'll interest her enough. Why? Because it's different. It's different. And, humans in general, we should not put other people on a pedestal because it's going to inflate their ego. And when that happens, they're going to start to react to you or respond to you in a way that's just like truly egotistical. So don't put women on a pedestal. Don't do it. And then watch what happens when you treat her like the Starbucks barista.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm curious as to, so if they take that approach and they do that and they don't put her on a pedestal and all of the things, why does she feel the need, in your opinion, why does she feel the need to then be like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, what is happening in her mind when that happens? If we could just reverse it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, if you're this woman, she's probably being told, she's definitely being told all the time that she's beautiful, right? She's being told in person by people on the street. She's being catcalled. She's getting in her, especially online. The online attention is twice or three times as much. She's getting in her DMs and her Instagram and her Facebook, you're beautiful, you're hot, emojis, etc., right? So if you're going up to her in real life and you're saying something to her that either contradicts you're beautiful or just straight up has nothing to do with her beauty whatsoever, it's shocking to her because all of the information she's fed is about her looks. So likely what she's done is she's created a persona that so heavily relies on her looks. In other words, she gets so much of her self-worth and her self-confidence from her looks. So if you're taking a totally different approach altogether, it's going to be different enough to her to stand out, and it's going to intrigue her.
Yeah, and I wanted to get you sort of on record talking about that because I think that's really important. To put anybody on a pedestal, eventually they become Kanye West at some point, right? It's like fucking annoying and arrogant and whatever. We hate all of that because people like that are really difficult to deal with, but they're also controlling in a weird gravitational way where everything has to be about them. I think dating someone like that would be a nightmare personally. Again, these are my thoughts, not the thoughts of whatever, but I feel like dating anybody who's arrogant and is just used to getting everything and isn't self-aware, right, would be a total nightmare. Ego is not a fun thing when it's out of control.
Yes. It's ego. It's also superficiality. And, it's at the end of the day, a lot of men want to learn how to talk to, the hottest woman in the room. But this comes back to what you and I were talking about before. It's like, what about taking the different approach and talking to the average girl? Because the thing is, a lot of times the average girl or the average guy, they're going to be more down to earth. They're going to likely have a better personality. Like, that is a huge generalization, but in general, you can expect an average girl or an average guy to be funnier, to be kinder, to have more self-esteem and value around things that have nothing to do with beauty and looks. And all of those three things are qualities that people should seek and that do well in relationship. So can you get beyond the physical and can you start to really get into what do I even value in a relationship? And then can you take that and apply it to the next person that you go up to when you approach in real life?
Yeah, again, it's this reoccurring theme of the middle, right? Like, does it matter if she, she's a 7 or he's a 7, but he's funny, she's talented, she's creative, she likes me for me, versus a 10 who's like, yo, where's my fucking salad? This is wrong, like, or whatever the fuck, right? So I just feel like if we could just find a way to be more accepting of where everybody wants to be at, because again, with the fucking lip filter and and I would never knock the Kardashians because I think that they're brilliant and they get shit on a lot, but like it is that Kardashian Instagram effect where it's like I have to look like that or I'm fucked, and it's like, wait a minute, why do I think that way? Like, you literally, social media, I literally tried to fucking double tap a picture on my refrigerator the other day. And I was like, I have to get off of social media because, and so like it gets in there. I mean, what's name another drug that you do while you're driving? I mean, people at least stop at a light to blow lines of Coke and shit, you know, like no one is on the phone. Like, that's how addicting this shit is. And I think all of this, again, is this question of how do we get people to realize that the deck is not just stacked against you, but like there's no deck. You're just awash with whatever social media and these expectations want to do to you. If you want a partner, and I know when Bumble started, right, they were like very female focused and it seemed a lot healthier than Tinder, but I think that's sort of crumbled now. And so what's a good evolution to get people to the middle again, like with all the things, that with technology, like where do you see us putting the robots away? And like, should we start having events for people? Like what do we do?
Yeah, I love that question. So, so for example, here in Austin, I work with clients one-on-one and in groups, but also something that I had sort of kickstarted within the past 6 months are singles events, and specifically speed dating events. People are loving speed dating. And the great thing about speed dating is like you don't even have to be a dating coach or like a matchmaker to facilitate these. All you have to do is be like, hey, let's get 10 women and 10 men to come into this room, and then just time people for 3 minutes each and tell them to switch. And the reason people are loving these events is because, number one, it's such a nice, refreshing change from being online, from meeting people online. Number two, what I always say is this. Think about this. Would you rather, choose one, would you rather go on a date with a man that you met on Bumble and spend 2 hours getting coffee with him, and maybe it doesn't even work out well? Or would you rather spend 2 hours going to speed dating and talking to 10 different men and then possibly getting 1 or 2 or 3 of their phone numbers, right? You get more bang for your buck. So what I try to recommend to people is like, yeah, the apps can be more convenient, and that's why they were designed, right? Think about why they were designed in the first place. It's technology is supposed to make our lives easier. But I would also recommend, again, in addition, you don't have to get rid of the apps, but in addition to using them, throw in like one speed dating a month in your rotation, or throw in a singles mingle group event in the rotation. You're going to meet so many more and so many different types of people by doing that.
Yeah, no, I think what you're doing with speed dating, I think is quite innovative, to be real. Cause I think, I said like post pandemic, I mean, it's not gone, but we're on the other side of something. So I think now people need what you're doing more than ever before, because, everyone says, oh, it's a reset, da, 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 da. Well, in the dating field, like online dating has gotten so much more difficult and so much more ego driven. And like you said, like only swiping right on the 6'2" fucking, basketball stars and shit. And so I think people are just lost so I think to do a speed dating thing is really cool in this time on this planet. I think they really need it. So I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And it gives you a type of energy that you just don't get online. It just humanizes, like it humanizes the whole dating process. And just as you said, that's what it is. I think people are collectively feeling lost, frustrated, kind of down about the whole dating process in general. So, let's humanize it again and make it known that like everyone is in this together. We're all on this journey together, and let's just be kinder to each other.
Right. No, and it's a great way to maybe warm back up like the rusty ass machine in your head, like to be in public again and be with people, because that can be a little rough. But once you're in it for 20 minutes, an hour, have a couple cocktails,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You're so right. Yeah, there's no better way to brush up on your social skills, honestly, than going to a speed dating event. It's such good practice.
Yeah, it is. How often do you do that?
I do them about twice a month, so every other week, and I'm usually maxed out. Like it's always like, nope, can't take any more men or can't take any more women. So, people are loving it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always suggested back in the day when I did like nightclubs and bars, I was like, we should do Irish speed dating where every time you sit down at the table, you have to take a shot. And they're like, that sounds like a disaster. I'm like, well, I mean, be fun, right?
That would be fun. No, I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's like that should
Yeah.
be a
Well,
slogan. It's like make dating fun again. Make it fun again. Like think of different ways you can have more fun doing it. It should not be this like dreadful, draining process.
yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. And you're more than welcome to take that idea and incorporate the alcoholism piece into speed dating, because I think that would be a lot of fun. But I think you're also like really right. It is like this agonizing, anxiety ridden thing that it's just it should the apps and those things should make our lives easier, and all they're doing is offering more of the same at a high rate. And I think that's the whole problem. It's like, oh, they're encouraging like shitty behavior and whatever. Okay, this does not help me. But I think that's why people like you are so crucial to waking everybody up a little bit. So couple things I want to, while I have you, I want to get your opinion on. These things are kind of current at the moment. One, are you familiar with the Adam Levine thing that's happening right now, or no?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So just for and I might not have the full story because it's changing every 5 minutes, but from what I saw, he was cheating on his wife, who's a Victoria's Secret supermodel. He was cheating on his wife, and the woman that he was cheating with had like the DM text receipts, which she kindly provided to the internet, to the world. And his wife was pregnant, and he was suggesting that he named the child, that they named the child after the mistress woman. From there, I don't know. I did see that other women are coming forward. So is this a entitled ego thing? What are your thoughts on this? Because I would love to hear.
Ooh, gosh, I have so many thoughts. I mean, here's the thing. If you are a famous rocker, I do think you're going to come with some sort of unhealthy ego. Especially, he's been in the game for so long, and I just can't imagine how he thinks of himself. But here's my thing. There is a term for this. I think that DMing a woman on Instagram while you're married and, saying flirtatious or, sexual things, it's micro cheating. It is a form of cheating. And he straight up said that. He admitted to cheating. And I think I last heard he said something like, well, monogamy is not natural. So he's like trying to justify his actions on top of that. And this is such a good example that just goes to show, like, he's married to a 10. He's married to a 12 out of 10. And even still, right, the idea, the Instagram, the social media effect somehow is obviously getting his brain to think that, like, he still doesn't have enough. And that piece, not the fact that he's, a famous musician or that he's married to a Victoria's Secret model, but that piece that he feels like he doesn't have enough and wants more and more and more, that instant gratification, that part is completely relatable to the human dating experience that everyone else is feeling. And it sucks. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, because, you said it, but I'll just boil it down in my own sort of like idiot fucking distillery here. Basically, if he has everything and he still wants more, what the fuck does that say about the rest of us?
Exactly. That is so succinct. You put it so well. Yes. Right. And so it comes down to, like, honestly, it comes down to mindfulness. It comes down to recognizing every single day, if you do enter a new relationship, or if you're in one already, or if you're talking to someone, like, stay grounded, stay present with them, and, like, remember what you have and why you have it. Remember why you were attracted to this person in the first place, because you're always going to think there's someone better out there. there is always going to be someone better out there. That's the fact. That's the other thing I like to tell people. You know, you could have a great boyfriend or girlfriend, but yes, it is true that there's someone out there on this planet that you could even have an even better relationship with, or that you could have higher compatibility with. That does not mean that you should leave your relationship or desire to leave your relationship.
Well said. I mean, I love that you're giving like truth. You're not sugarcoating anything. Sure, it could be better, but do you really want to go out there and search around and cut off what you have right now? I think that's really powerful, because you see people like posting memes on social media about how much, people that stray from the relationship suck and all of those things, and it's the partner's fault because they weren't pleasing. The, like, Jesus Christ, like, come the fuck. We are all responsible for our own actions, and it is not your partner's responsibility to, like, if they're being a dick all the time and like not giving you what you need mentally, emotionally, sexually, then have a talk, right? But you can't blame, you didn't love me enough. I went out and found. That's not my fault. That's that, so I just feel like the personal responsibility. And so I love that you made it realistic, because I think that's really, really, really important. And you can tell you're phenomenal at what you do just from little points like that. So thank you for that. Pivoting from Adam Levine to somebody much larger in the celebrity sphere, Leonardo DiCaprio. How do we feel about, and again, I'm just going to set the table, right? Just in case someone has lived, under a rock or something for a while. I get it. I go back and forth under my rock a lot, but Leonardo DiCaprio apparently breaking up with women once they turn 20. Is it 25?
25. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what is happening there, right? Another powerful megastar male, filthy rich, whatever, all the things. What's happening there, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. This one is fascinating because I love Leo as an actor and I hate him as a person. And despite the fact that he's rich and a millionaire, this is a pattern I've seen in my older male clients as well. The idea that if you're older, you have not only the ability, but the right. You have the right to date someone like half your age. And I'll give an example. I have a male client or male friend who's 45, and my speed dating events, I cap them at 40. The age range is 25 to 40. And he got mad at me because he said, I want to come, I could hit it off with a 25 or 30-year-old. And I said back to him, but a 25-year-old woman is not going to necessarily want to date you. And that's why I keep that age range. So a lot of older men who have certain resources have the ability to date way down. And it sucks. It is such a shitty dynamic because all of those women who are above 25, the women in between 25 and 40 or 45 or whatever, are just being completely looked over because of their age. And usually it doesn't even have to do with the fact that, can they bear children? Because nowadays there's so much that they can do. There's so much these women can do to produce children, even if they're a little older. Usually it has everything to do with the way that these women look. And it sickens me. It really does. Because the fact is, Dennis Quaid is, I just learned this the other day. He's in his late 60s and his partner is something like 39 years younger than him. And the reality is you're not going to have much in common with someone who's much younger. So the compatibility is so low. And so in conclusion, when the Leos of the world do stuff like this, like, it just gives me like the ickiest feeling. I just don't like it because it's for the wrong reasons. That's why.
Yeah, it just, there's so much, I'm not really sure what the internet is doing with Leonardo DiCaprio, because it's like half of it is, oh my God, how disgusting. And then the other half is like, good for him. And it's like, oh, well, so it seems to be very split. Whereas with Adam Levine, I think he's a little more like under the gun on the internet right now.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. It's funny you say that. it's definitely the men who are saying good for him, because they look at him as like a model. They're like, oh, our humble leader. Like, oh, he can do this. It's amazing. The women are the ones being like, ew, no, that's disgusting. She's like his child.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a wild thing because he'll come out with a movie and then that will fall away, and then it'll come back when it's quiet. It's like, the cycles of things, I think affect the outcome. I mean, do we think that he's going to change? Probably not. I mean, and that's fine. It's legal. Do whatever the fuck, right? But it's almost like the internet or Twitter like demands blood for it, and then they get it and they're like, on to the next thing. So I think that no one's like, there is no accountability for truly like what is it that everybody wants him to do, right? Like, can we agree on something? And like and so I just think with people like that, even people that are like insanely bad behavior, right? Like there is, again, like there's no accountability for anything. Yeah. And what Leonardo DiCaprio and Adam Levine are doing, it's not like it's illegal. It's not whatever. It's just like bad behavior. Right. And so that's great for them, be bad, do your thing, whatever. You're fucking famous. And I get it. I totally get it. But I just think that we need to decide as a culture, like, are we having a talk with Leo over tea, or like, what are we doing? Like, what exactly? Are we just going to bitch about it? So I wish that, the culture would like get itself together over, instead of just dragging someone, I feel like, okay, well, what should we do?
Right.
That's my point on that. So in closing, right, to pivot away from that mess, I'm wondering if you could give a little bit of advice for the dudes out there who are lost, right? They're trying to figure it out. They want a partner. They're coming at it from a real, true standpoint in their core. I'm going to have you do the men first, and then I'm going to have you do the women, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So for the men, you definitely have to work on your outer game and your inner confidence. It's going to take a combination of both. The great news is many times a lot of the inner confidence can be helped by working on your outer game, and vice versa. So, for example, work on your style. It sounds shallow, but that's the first thing a woman sees when she meets you, is what you look like. Find your style. Find stuff that you feel good in. Go to a professional barber or even hire a stylist and figure out what looks good on you and how to cut your hair in a face that's going in a way that's going to complement your face and your body structure. Tailoring is more important than where your clothes are from or how much they cost. Just something to keep in mind. When it comes to your inner confidence, you have to work on your inner confidence, because by working on that, you're going to more easily be able to approach women in real life. And one of the best ways to do that is meditation or even self-affirmations. So picking a phrase or a quote that really resonates with you, something that you really struggle with. For example, I am powerful, or I feel strong, or it could be, I feel like a fucking badass. Like, put it into your own words. As long as it comes from you and feels authentic, write that down or say it 25 times every single morning before you leave your house, before you start your job that day. And just watch. We're going to rewire the neural pathways in your brain that way. And that's what we want to do. We want to create a new habit of confidence. So that's what I would say to the men.
Okay. And now the women, if you would.
Yeah, the women. Women, the advice is so different for men and women. So for the women, I would say a couple things. Number one, leave your bad bitch energy in your workplace. Leave it there. Because one of the number one things I hear from men is that they meet women on dates and these women are like aggressive. So it's like, back off a little bit. Leave your, what we call in the spiritual world, your masculine energy. Leave that in your workplace. And then come home, put on your lipstick, meditate, do whatever you have to do to kind of soften and come back into your feminine essence. And then go on a date. And then meet this man. because that's the version of you that he wants to see. Being a feminist is cool, and that those sides of you will definitely come out, but especially when you first meet a man, you want that first impression to come off really feminine and flowy and flexible. And that's going to make him feel like a man. And that's what men want to feel like. They want to feel like men. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is be realistic with your standards. Make a list. That's what I do. That's what I did. I made a list of 10 to 15 qualities that I desire in my partner. Those 10 to 15 qualities, those are your deal breakers. Those are your I cannot live withouts. Anything outside of that is unnecessary. Don't be so hard on these men. You know, they're doing the best with what they've got. So take those 10 to 15 qualities and apply them to the men that you swipe to. I literally say, take that list and then swipe and look at the list. Because if you don't look at the list and swipe, you're going to be swayed by, oh, this guy's so cute. Okay, but what about the other 9 qualities on your list? Does he have those as well? And that's how you're able to hold yourself accountable.
Wow. Lots there. Love it. Sheena Sharma, thank you so much for being on Sex Party. Where can people find you? Where can people work with you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for asking. So if you're interested in working with me, I have a website. It's thatdatingcoach.com. Feel free to head there to learn more about me. And my Instagram handle is also thatdatingcoach. So feel free to add me on there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I will definitely be inviting you back in the future. So everybody stay tuned, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Big thank you to my guest, Sheena Sharma, this week for being on the show with me, for getting into some more of the heavier stuff around dating, into the caverns of truth. No idea what the fuck that means, but a great episode. We're dealing with things that are happening and currently in the world, and dating is rough. Dating sucks. And so I think, you know, I even gave you guys some terrible advice. So you can choose to follow that at your own peril, or you can listen to Sheena, or you can do a combination of both. I appreciate her for being on the show with me. Can't wait to have her back. If you guys are appreciating guests like Sheena, there's a couple different ways you can show your appreciation, your love for the show. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, you can subscribe to the show. You can leave a rating. You can leave a review. You don't have to do this shit. I really appreciate it if you do. It'll help us grow. If you're watching on YouTube, yo, you okay? Great. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel. You can like the video. You can leave a comment. Comments are great. Even if it's like a shitty comment, you can leave a shitty comment. No problem. You don't have to do any of this stuff. I appreciate it if you do. If you want to talk to me, you can reach out in the DMs on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram is better. And as always, I will see you right back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin at Dustin Rybka.